All right, one of the things I'm going to do today, well, two things I'm going to do today. One, I'm going to terminate the fuel lines at the sniper and change the plug connection on the back of the sniper wiring harness. We'll depin that, and I will make new pins on the lines that I brought from the cockpit side that we had done in a previous video. So here I have my two fuel lines. This is the feed. I've marked it with blue tape just for my reference for now. The feed, the intake side, pressure side on the sniper is on the driver's side or left-hand side in the rear. I also have an adapter here, and I'm going to be installing a pressure gauge so I can actually read the fuel pressure. So this is a 6AN female, male on this side, and then I have two 60s here, and these are my old dummy plugs that I use. I keep them around old fittings so I don't have to ruin a new one. I can just kind of thread it on there and kind of get an idea of what's going on. So I'm going to move this one out of the way. This is just a big loop right now. So this is my feed line, and I want to allow myself, let me move that down here. I want to allow myself a little bit of slack just for movement, and I don't need it so tight that it's going to be a problem later on. And then I'm going to mark halfway down the nut, and I'm just going to make a little black line, and that's going to be my cut line, and that's for the feed line. And I'm going to do the same thing on the return. And I know that I have a adapter spacers to keep these two together, so I'm going to mark this one same way, about halfway, because you don't thread these you don't feed this line all the way up into the nut. You'll end up with a big problem. You'll never get the fitting on right. All right, I'm back over at the workbench with the hose. I use a die grinder cutoff wheel. This is taped, and then I make a nice cut. I don't do it really fast, but just build enough heat to where it'll cut through the stainless, through the hose, and it tends to keep my stainless hose part from flaring. Then I clamp it back in the vise, and you can either use a product from Cool Tools, which makes it easy to put these hose ends, together. And in my case, I haven't had the need yet to use one, although it's been frustrating at times. But as long as the stainless ends aren't flared a lot, you should be able to get your nut started. And I like to work from the bottom a little bit. This is flared a little bit. I like to work from the bottom and kind of go one way, just to make sure that I got all the ends without poking myself like I did. And then hold the hose and start threading as if you're putting on a nut. There we go. And the aluminum grousers inside will grab a little bit. And what I like to do is take this nut to about this position. Threads go down about this far, about 1/8 of an inch in. I like to grab just about half of this nut's worth, so somewhere in this area, and I can just eyeball it down inside here. I need to come a little bit more. I want to get past the last bit of grousers. Oh, too much. So that looks pretty good to me. I'll blow these out and clean them when I'm done. So this has all been dry so far. When I put this end in, I will put a little bit of 3-in-1 oil just on the threads, and especially on the barrel that slides down inside the hose. But I'm hoping that you can see down in here about how far that I've gone, and I'm about where I was. And let's just allow this to bite into the hose and seal it and get everything pressurized out. So I'll put a little bit of oil. And then I start this by hand.
So I make sure that my barrel is inside the hose, and then I'll start threading this on. And then once I get it into the threads, then I'll stick it back in my jaws, and I leave it stick out just a little bit so I know that if I need to get my wrench around, I'm not running into the vise. And I don't want to clamp it really hard, but just tight enough to hold the fitting. And then this is a 6AN, which is 11/16. This is 3/4. This is 5/8. So I get my widest jawed 5/8 open end wrench, and I tighten this. And I have my hose is kind of curved down right now. This is eventually going to go in this position, so I kind of want to keep it there as much as I can, although these are swivel fittings and I'll be able to put it in any position, but I might as well start as close as I can. All right. Okay. That's good. I'm just going to take, and this is the tape that I had. I'm going to leave this on until I get it in the car so I know what I'm dealing with. So I have this pretty close to what my arc's going to be. And then I'll just take an air hose, and I want to blow both ways. And now my hose is ready to go on. So, all right, back at the engine. Fuel lines that were just made are now installed. The pressure gauge, adapter, so that we can read the fuel pressure. Return lines in. These are 60° again. Fuel lines are going to go down around the back here. I'll be having those clamped. These are the fuel lines with my compression fittings. Bent them back to follow the 1-inch square tube a little bit more. And just back up around. There's a clamp securing the two lines so they don't vibrate and run up against each other. And then up along to the back of the sniper, where our return line and the feed line are. This is the sniper harness and plug that they send with the sniper, so you can connect this to the battery. Here's your ignition lead. Here's for a mag crank sensor. Here's your ignition wire to the coil, negative coil. Your fuel pump lead, relay, and a fuse. I already have this incorporated in the car. So I'm going to de-pin this, and then I have new terminals that I'm going to use. Splice my wires under the hood, pin it back into the block, and run it that way. There we go. Okay, it's out. Okay, the sniper comes with an output terminal here, and that's already wired into the computer side of the sniper, 10-pin, and they come with a pre-wired 10-pin harness. And all I need out of here is terminal C and terminal G. Terminal C is going to be my fan relay, and G, if I can use it, is going to be the tack. And the way these go is, it starts at A here, A, B, C, D, E, and then you just keep rolling around, F, G, H, J, K. So we're going to use C, which is the light blue one here, this terminal, C anyway, and we're going to come around and we're going to use terminal G. Okay, here's my de-pinned harness, just the two wires that I need right now. And actually I'm going to pull this one out because, again, I have my fan ground lead there, which is basically taking my tool again, sticking it in the terminal block and pulling the wire out. All right, this plug's ready to go back in, and as you can see, I've plugged all of the vacant terminals that I have depinned and I won't be using. I will be putting the one that we just made right here that's ready to snap in the block. This again will be the tack lead, and I'm going to test that, and if it works, like I said, I will terminate it out here, pull it back out of the harness and terminate it right here with another plug like that, snap it in there, and we'll be set to go. This is the main plug powering the sniper from the battery, coil, etc. This is my output. I have the lock tab off of it right now, and I have the thick brown wire in the back is to the fan trigger negative ground to the relay for the cooling fan. This lighter brown wire is running to the coil, which I have kind of just strung up along here and tied into my existing harness. And if it works, then I'm going to strip this green and yellow one back to here, and they'll be terminated right there. I'm going to run that off the Holly, off the sniper, if it'll work. All right, I'm going to run a test on my coil wire. I should get cranking voltage and crank signal, RPM signal to my tack, and if that works, then I can rewire all this and have this completed. All right, I'm going to be watching the tack signal. I've got it bypassed out there under the hood. I'm going to be using the sniper signal, and if that works, I will clean up my harness like I mentioned earlier. And I've got oil pressure and I've got a tack RPM signal. So I am going to switch that back over and clean up that harness and call it good. I'm going to depin the coil wire that I have jury-rigged right now, which is this one right here. I'm going to pull the green and yellow stripe back through this harness right here that goes up underneath, up here to the tack. So this is where it was reading the signal. It picked up the signal. I'm good, so I'll pull this back, terminate it in there, clean this up, finish this harness, plug it in, and this wiring will be done. All right, I've pulled the green and yellow striped wire, which is right by my thumbnail, from the tack coil negative side. I stripped it back to the harness and just terminated here. So it's going to be controlled by the sniper, so the cap's back on. So that's finished. This is again the plug. This is the CAN bus, our main harness, O2 sensor. I'm going to finish unrouting that on the other side, but that's the back of it. Back of the engine, intake area, and that is completed.